Welcome back. Now we have our reload montage with our reload AR section, but we still need to add some notifies. We need to add a grab clip, a replace clip, and a reload finish notify. The simplest of these is reload finish, which we can place right at the end of reload AR. So I'm going to add notify and choose skeleton notifies reload finish. Now we're going to add grab clip as well, and that goes right about where we're grabbing the clip. So that's going to be right about here. So right click, add notify, skeleton notifies, and grab clip. And we're going to fast forward to where we're replacing the clip right here. And we're going to add a notify. And we don't quite have enough room here, so I'm going to add a new track, notify track. And I'm going to add the new notify right here. Add notify, skeleton notifies, replace clip. Now I'm going to save this. Now in order for grab clip and replace clip to work, we need to do what we did for the SMG. And if you'll recall, we created an animation blueprint for the SMG. Let's go into our weapons folder and go into base weapon, and you'll see that we have an SMG AnimationBP. So let's create a new animation blueprint. So right click, go to animation and select animation blueprint. And for this one, we're going to choose the skeleton for the AR, and it's called SKAR4 skeleton. We can make sure by going into weapon data, browsing to the SKAR4 and double clicking on it and making sure in asset details that the skeleton is indeed SKAR4 skeleton, which it is. So back in our weapons and base weapon folder, we're going to right click, create an animation blueprint based on SKAR4 skeleton. We're going to derive from anim instance. Go ahead and click OK, and we're going to call this AR AnimationBP, and we're going to select this. And just like we did for the SMG AnimationBP, we're going to add a few variables. So let's add a new variable, and we're going to call this one shooter character. We're going to change its type to shooter character BP. We're also going to create a new variable, and this one will be called moving clip, and this one is a Boolean. We're going to add a new variable called hand scene comp transform, hand scene comp transform, and this one's going to be a transform. And we're also going to add a new variable called owning weapon, and this one will be of type base weapon BP. All right, so in the event graph, we're going to add an event for initialize animation. It's the event blueprint initialize animation. This is sort of like a begin play for the animation blueprint. And we're going to go ahead and get the player pawn. We're going to cast it to shooter character BP and use this to set shooter character. Now we're going to get the owning actor. We're going to cast this to base weapon BP. And we're going to use this to set our owning weapon. Set owning weapon. So now we have a valid shooter character and a valid owning weapon. Now if we scroll down to event blueprint update animation, we're first going to check if shooter character is valid. And if it's not, then we'll set it by using get player pawn and casting to shooter character BP. So this is standard stuff that we typically do in these scenarios. Now for the is valid case. If it is valid, then what do we do on update animation? Basically every frame. Well, we want to set our hand scene comp transform. And we want to do that by getting our shooter character. And from our shooter character, we're going to get that hand scene component. Get hand scene component. And from that, we're going to get the world transform. Get world transform. And that is what we're going to use every frame to set our hand scene comp transform. So this is getting the scene component for the hand on the shooter character, and we're storing it in a variable on our AR animation blueprint. So next we're going to get our owning weapon. We're going to check to see if it is valid. And if it's not valid, what do you think we're going to do? We're going to get owning actor, cast to base weapon, BP, and set owning weapon. But what about the is valid case? When the weapon is valid, then we simply need to get the moving clip Boolean. And so for both of these, we want to set moving clip. So set moving clip, we're going to do that on both of these. And we're going to get moving clip from the owning weapon. So we're going to get owning weapon and get moving clip and use that to set moving clip on the animation blueprint. So get moving clip and set moving clip on the animation blueprint. So that's all we need to update. We're updating the hand scene component transform, getting that from the shooter character, and we're getting the moving clip Boolean from the owning weapon that owns this animation blueprint. Now for our animation graph. We're going to create a state machine. We're going to call this AR state machine. And we're going to simply plug this in. And in AR state machine, all we're going to do is drag out and create a state called the default state, and we're going to leave it empty. Now in the anim graph, what we're actually going to do is cache this AR state machine. So cache, and we're going to call this default pose. And we simply need to make sure we're setting the clip position. So we did all this in the SMG anim blueprint, and the process is the same. We're basically going to get our hand scene component, break the transform. So break transform. And we're going to use a transform modify bone. Transform modify bone. And we're using the location and rotation, and we're leaving the scale at 1. And we're taking our default pose, use cached pose, default pose, and plugging that in, and we're automatically getting a local to component. Now we need to go back from component to local space, so component to local, and we can simply cache this and call this cached clip moved. Now I'm going to just use cached clip moved and stick it into the output pose. Now for transform modify bone, we need to set some properties. So for the bone to modify, for the AR, it's going to be that B gun mag. So let's select B gun mag. And for translation, we're going to use replace existing, and we're going to use world space. For rotation, we're also going to use replace existing and world space. And for scale, we're going to leave it at ignore. Now, I know I just plugged in the cached clip moved, but we're actually not going to use that. We're going to use our default pose. So use cached default pose and cached clip moved, and we're going to blend poses by bool. And the bool we're going to use is moving clip. So we're going to get moving clip, and from this we're going to say blend poses by bool. And if it's true, we're going to use cached clip moved, and if it's false, we're going to use the default pose. And this we can plug in. So this is our animation blueprint, which we just need to set, and we're going to set this in the next video. So we'll see you in the next video.